We've been talking about the qualifiers that we use in representations and warranties to modify the exposure between the buyer and the seller. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about a knowledge qualifier. So how does that work? Remember, we're working with a representation. There's been no release of an environmental hazard on the property. That's the buyer's proposed representation. It's pretty broad and straightforward. And a seller might counter that by saying, to seller's knowledge, there's been no release of a hazard on an environmental hazard on the property. And by inserting that knowledge qualifier, they've limited the scope of the exposure to just things that they actually know about. Now, this begs a question: what does it mean? Seller's knowledge mean? And it's almost always then defined in the purchase agreement itself what is meant by seller's knowledge. A seller might want it to be the actual conscious awareness of a couple of key executives at the company, so they can go ask those couple of key executives, you know anything about this? And if the answer is no, they're done. A buyer will typically want to put some bells and whistles around what conscious awareness we're talking about. They might want that after due inquiry, so that the key executives who are named actually have to go ask their downstream reports if they know about something as well. They might put something in there about a reasonable person in that same position, what they would have known, what we call constructive knowledge, to also prevent against the fact that the seller might just have someone in a role who doesn't know anything about the business, and this knowledge qualifier completely eviscerates the rep. But it can be very helpful in certain circumstances to insert a knowledge qualifier and limit the seller's exposure to things that are beyond their awareness and their knowledge.